Good evening, and welcome to the next episode of the award-winning Fiero Cast. Tonight, we will be talking about the concept of the Mera, the history, and what it could have been. We will also bring in our special guest, Mark Soldner, who is working on a big project that you might have heard of on Facebook and through the Fiero Focus website, the big Mera reunion happening at this year's Fiorama. I am your host, Mike Croyer, and you are listening to the newest episode of FieroCast, the only podcast dedicated to the Pontiac Fiero and the Fiero community. You can find past FieroCast episodes at FieroFocus.com or on our Facebook page, as well as our YouTube page. We'd like to thank our FieroCast supporters for this 2025 season, the Fiero Store, Rodney Dickman, Bontur Solutions, the Midwest Fiero Clubs, Golden Eye Graphic, the N.I.F.E store, the Northern Illinois Fiero Enthusiasts, and Automodella. This episode is brought to you by the Midwest Fiero Clubs and Automodella.
Have you asked yourself, what is the Midwest Fiero Clubs? Well, the Midwest Fiero Clubs, which is also a region of the AACA, is a dedicated group of enthusiasts whose passion is to promote and preserve the Pontiac Fiero and the Fiero community. The Midwest Fiero Clubs consists of members from existing Fiero clubs across the U.S. The Midwest Fiero Club's intent is to support member clubs and promote the Fiero-related events that they offer. The intent is to enable enthusiasts to discover events in their areas other than their own, and to warrant participation. This has created a tighter-knit Fiero community of the owners and created some great regional shows that may not have otherwise happened. So, how do I find out about them? You can visit the website at midwestfieroclubs.com or just Facebook them at Midwest Fiero Clubs and like them.
All right, so before we get started, I wanted to say that this FieroCast was written by N.I.F.E member and former board member Larry Hall. Unfortunately, Larry passed away back in 2012, but he left a very long impression about the Fiero to the Fiero community and will always be remembered as not only a Fiero owner, but a loving father as well. All right, so let's talk the Mera. You may have seen them around. You probably have seen them many times at some of the anniversary shows. Dating back to the 35th anniversary show and the 40th, you might have seen a silver one in the ballroom. That was the prototype Mera that is owned by Drew Money out in Ohio. And it is in very pristine, very just immaculate. And Mark Soldner will be joining us a little bit later to kind of give us a little deep conversation on that as well, and give us some insights on it. But the other one that you might know locally or to the Midwest is Rodney Dickman with his red Mera. And that car is also immaculate, and it is a very pristine Mera. And those two Meras are what are meant. Our current activity director, Todd Weichel, also has a Mera. So they're around, but you probably don't see a whole lot of them because they are, we'll say, very rare. There wasn't that many produced. So the concept of the Mera started out as a discussion of a new project car at Corporate Concepts Limited, CCL, in Capac, Michigan. And according to Bob Brazeley, the owner, the idea of the Mera was born after the introduction of the Fiero's V6 engine. The Mera sales brochure stated that the common vision of the design team was to infuse some excitement into today's Me Too environment. They wanted to build a car that would be easily maintained, is very economical to operate, and fun to drive. the Magnum PI physique of driving this car was what they kind of had a vision for. And they wanted to build a car that would, again, be very easy to maintain. And the results of their work was the Mera. The styling option based on the Fiero space frame. While looking for the design of the body, they looked at several cars and decided that the 308 GTB Ferrari was the best choice. Now, during the time period in the late 1980s, again, going back to Magnum PI, which was a popular television show back in the day, and it featured the Ferrari 308. The design was a very recognizable, popular, and a very attractive looking car. So, an article found on the internet comparing the Mera and the Ferrari 308 favors the Mera in several categories. Now, while having less horsepower, of course, the 205 for the Ferrari versus the 140 for the Mera, its slightly lighter weight gave the Mera an advantage in the 0 to 60 and quarter-mile times. Pretty interesting. So, in addition, the Mera miles per gallon was significantly better, and the Mera also had much more reliable car as a result of the GM drivetrain that was chosen for that Mera. After almost 2 years of designing and development, the Mera was first introduced in the 1987 model year. The cost was approximately $25,000 to $29,000 depending on the options that you wanted. This was significantly higher than the loaded GT at $18,000, but well below the cost of a Ferrari 308, of course, which was in the $50,000 range at the time. Approximately, the 88 to 87 Fiero GTs were converted into Meras. The wheels of the 87 Mera were actually the Fiero GT diamond spoke 15-inch aluminum rims, which were painted to match the color of the car. Now, the Mera was also available in several different colors, including white, black, red, silver, gray, and yellow. Small plug here for the enthusiast guide to the Pontiac Fiero. If you have one, look up the 87 and 88 model years in the book and just kind of see what the Meras had as far as the differences go and what they were able to offer in the Meras. And it's pretty interesting that how the information and everything that is there just really dove into what the Meras were. Now, the 88 Mera conversions were largely based on the Fiero formula model, as the formula had all of the suspension improvements of the GT model. So without the premium price, however, now it had been documented that a few 88 Meras were based on the GT platform, right? To set the 88 Meras apart from the 87s, replica aluminum rims were specially cast by Camerato of Italy for the conversions. The same company at one time cast the rims for the Ferrari. So, kind of seeing something going here. The Mera sales in 88 totaled only 159 though, with the MSRP at $24,999. You'd think something that looks like a Ferrari that you could own for under 30,000 or even 25,000 that gave you that sporty look. Why wasn't more sold, right? Would you take a Fiero over a Mera replica Ferrari? Yeah. Anyways, GM did not endorse the Mera. That's one of the reasons why the sales were not all the way up there yet. So the 247 total conversions were sold through Pontiac dealers, not as a GM authorized option, though, but as a new car. But GM did not endorse the Mera yet, but the 247 total conversions were sold through Pontiac dealers, not as a GM authorized option, but as a new car. So it's a completely renovated, new looking, let's just sell it as a new car, not as a Fiero or a modified conversion kit. No kits were ever sold after a Fiero GT or Formula were sold, and only the new cars were used for conversions. So CCL set up the agreement with GM to only convert new Fieros coming off the line into Meras. Never a used one. Think of the Mera ordering process as similar to how orders are taken for conversion vans, right? Another article in the Fiero Owners magazine published by the Fiero Owners Club of America, this was the fourth quarter, 1999, roughly pages 11 through 15. They described the Mera conversion process that CCL followed. All of the fiberglass panels were poured, molded, unmolded, and touched up in one facility and brought to another building for assembly onto the Fiero chassis. The conversion panels were then prepped, primed, sanded, and painted off of the car's frame. All those parts were individually painted. Now, sounds like a very premium style, high-end car, right? The panels were then placed on a buck, measurements were checked, and then left to dry. The original Fiero body panels, except the roof, were removed from the Fiero space frame, and the Mera conversion panels were mounted onto the chassis using over the 200 mounting points. So, Corporate Concepts had hoped to make over 1,000 Mera conversions, but that did not happen. One of the reasons that the sales goal was never achieved was due to legal action taken by Ferrari. In 1988, several lawsuits initiated by Ferrari concerning copyright infringements forced CCL to destroy the rest of the Mera molds. Probably because it was very close, almost exactly looking like the 308, right? The Ferrari's primary issue, here we go, was the fact that the Mera looked too closely and resembled too accurately to the Fiero. See, I'm getting the Fiero and the Ferrari mixed up. The Ferrari 308. So, in addition, sagging Fiero sales and the ultimate decision made by GM to drop the Fiero ended any hopes of the Mera continuing to be sold. So when the Fiero was canceled, the Mera went right down with it. And if you're looking to add a Mera to your collection, the average examples that I would look for are the 87 Meras, which right now sell for about 7,000 to 9,000. Now, this article, again, the writing of this was dated back in 2011. So my guess is, again, look at the Fiero price guide, because that's going to be the most accurate pricing out there for the Mera. And I can tell you right about now that the Meras are starting to come back, and it's something that I would probably start looking at, right? And if you really wanted to get a Mera into your collection, right now, we'll say the 87 Meras are going for roughly, all right, in that same range. This range of 7,000 to 10,000 for an 87 and 11 to 15,000 for an 88. That's the best value in excellent condition at 15,000 and 10,000. So, you know, if you got one for 25 back in the day and you still have it, your price is going back up. So that's a pretty good investment if you still have it and it's still in great condition. So again, this was back in 2011, but at that time the 88s were going for about 9 to 13,000. So they've come up about $2,000, right? So, but overall, the Mera is a very stylish looking car for, what they say about the Fiero. It's a poor man's Corvette, right? So can you just add the Mera as the poor man's Ferrari? It's one of those things where you look at both of the Fiero and the Mera, and it's a cool looking sports car. And you got the Mera who's got that mid-engine. Okay. You could drive around in that, you could throw a 30, a 3800 in there, a V8, and then you got something that's very close to a 308 Ferrari, right? Maybe even have more horsepower. But overall, it's one of those things where what would you rather have? A Ferrari? Yes. Or a replica that just gives you that turn heads as you're driving down the road. So, all right. So we are going to now bring in Mark Soldner, and again, um, look for information here at FieroFocus.com and everything that you want to know about the Fiorama is there, and then everything that you want to know about the Mera reunion, and that is happening on Sunday, September 7th at Potawatomi Park. But if you want, there is the night before at the host hotel. N.I.F.E is hosting from 5 to 6 a Mera reunion Q&A. All are welcome. The special feature events on that Saturday will start about 5 o'clock, like I said, and they will gather in the parking lot of the host hotel where we will have more information about the Mera and an educational Q&A session to learn what a Mera is and the significance to it in the Fiero history. So again, if you got a Mera, get the word out there. I know N.I.F.E is getting the word out there on everything like that. But also, if you want to know a little bit more about the Mera, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of information out there. The Fiero Enthusiast Guide to the Fiero is also has a lot of information in there as well. So, all right, let's get into it with Mark Soldner. He's got a pretty good history on the Meras as well. He's been doing a lot of research over the many years of the Mera. So we will jump into that. And if you got questions for him, you can always post them on our Facebook page or talk to him at Fiorama or find him walking around at some of the Fiero events that are held by N.I.F E and some of the other Fiero events that are held across the Midwest that he attends. So, all right, let's have at it with Mark Soldner. All right, welcome, Mark Soldner to FieroCast. Thank you for joining me tonight. Many of you have seen Mark around. He's been at many cruise nights. He's been at the Dells. He is very prominent at Fiorama. And he has also been working on, correct me if I'm wrong, but probably the last 5-10 years, right, on studying the Mera. And it's not a Pontiac Mera. Mera is its own identity, correct?
More or less, it's like a when you went into the dealership, um, it was like a conversion van. It was advertised as a conversion that you could, do this to your car. So you would just check off a box and go, yeah, I want the Mera. And there was a brochure and it showed you everything you had. But basically, I always compared it to, and a lot of people have the like a conversion van. Like if you walked into GM and said, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Back in the '80s, they had all the conversion vans and everything. So it wasn't GM wasn't selling it oh, as a model more than a option.
And this was completely different than what we see in rebodies. So this is actually a GM backed conversion versus somebody nowadays putting body kits on there like a Lamborghini or some of the different styles of Ferrari kits, or the F40 and stuff like that. So this was
Yeah.
really the only GM backed conversion that was part of or was part of the Fiero family, correct?
Correct. Yeah, calling it a kit car is really actually an insult to a Mira owner or even a Fiero owner because it was endorsed. it was, yeah, you can do that. And
And
it
really
was an option.
but there was no engine modifications. It was the straight V6. Um, and then the interior, even though it resembled a Fiero, but there was some interior differences, correct?
Very minor where all the Pharaoh emblems would go. There was a mirror emblem. And for the mirrors, there's a switch in the center in between where the power window switches would be. So basically, that's about the only difference in the interior. It's just badging and that switch for the mirrors. But it's yeah, it's all Fiero inside, and yeah, the only part that's Mera is the body panels, the outside parts, and they were attached to the space frame in 200 different points with the fenders and the bumpers. And the only thing that was still Fiero was the roof and the windshield, that panel. Everything else was replaced.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, and before you joined me, I had referenced I think it was the only reference that we have referenced in Fiero Focus of the Mira, and that was, oh God, going back to, I think it was the second to last issue of sorry, second to last issue of volume 20 of Fiero Focus back in 2011. And
Hmm.
that has been the only time that we've really touched on the Mira. And it kind of just dove into the pricing of it. I mean, they were very reasonable, um, $25,000 compared to if you were to buy, an actual Ferrari, you're looking at, that 50, 60, 70,000 range.
Right.
So it was a very reasonable um, conversion. And so, but you have over the many years have started diving into looking into what is the Mira. Um, so the past couple issues, we've had um, chatter about the Mira. Um, we have our one of our new activity directors, Todd Weichel, who is one of his gentlemen that he works on his vehicles is a Mira owner. Um, and we've been trying to get him to come to Fiorama, but due to his age, he's just not able to. Um, a lot of people in the Fiero community know of Rodney Dickman and Rodney Dickman's Mira. Um, you know, how close or is that almost like the purest Mira out there?
Which one, Rodney's?
Yeah.
I would, well, depends on how you want to define purist. I think the Mira 6001, the concept car that was used in advertisements and sent to all the auto shows in the beginning back in '86, that would probably be the most pure one because nothing has been changed on that vehicle whatsoever. I'm sure there's a lot of mirrors out there that are still originally badged and, weren't changed. A lot of people put the Ferrari emblems on. I'm not sure why. Probably anyone that would look on the interior would know immediately it's not Ferrari. But to me, I'm a purist and I want to have all the mirror badging that's on it. And, just to how it came from the factory. And those are the ones that bring basically the most money. They haven't been played with, I guess. I
Mhm.
mean, to each his own. You can do whatever you want with your car, but being a purist, I've been trying to find as much out about them as possible since 2010, and I've had the opportunity a couple times to maybe buy one, but life got in the way, anyways. But
So
it,
that brings up a question too, is what personally draws you to the Mira? I'm not gonna lie. I I've been in the Fiero world since '97. And as much as I like the style, to me, that's that's a Magnum PI car. And that to me, that would be like if I wanted to be like Magnum PI, I know I can't afford a Ferrari. that would be the closest thing that I can probably purchase that would make me feel like I'm Magnum PI. But that's me.
Right.
And I never really dove into the history of the Mira or why it is what it is. But what makes you draw yourself to the Mira? What is about the Mira that just like you said, you wanted to try to get one, but just never at the time and never pieces never fell in place.
Hmm. Um, I've always, I was a person of the 80s and I also like the Magnum PI and all that. And when I saw it and realized that the things that about the Ferrari is it needed a lot of maintenance, and it was like once a year or once every year and a half or whatever, so many miles you had to have this like $10,000 engine drop and belt change on it. And here you have a car with now there's only 247 ever built, so it's rare. It's rare mirrors are that's all there are out there.
So
Now you have a car,
I don't mean to cut you off, but you're only saying out of the what
total production.
347,000 Fieros or 378,000 Fieros out there, only 249 people bought the conversion from GM. So
Correct.
it's like when you see one, it's like the holy grail of Miras then.
Right, right, because there's not that many out there, and plus, as time goes on, there have been some that have been, destroyed or in accidents or burnt or whatever. I don't know. It's been really hard to find all of them. I mean, Rodney Dickman had a registry that is still out there, but I don't know how it's been updated. There's one in Pennox that was updated, but there are a lot of empty spots, and the rarity of it. Plus, when you compare it, if you want to compare it to the Ferrari, it's only 140 horsepower because of the 2.8 as opposed to the 205 horsepower. But because the Fiero is lighter, it has a better 0 to 60 um, rating. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper.
Was it lighter because of the space frame?
Yeah. No, the space frame and just, fiberglass or, yeah, fiberglass panels. It's just a light car. I mean, the Ferrari is pretty heavy with that big old V12 in it and everything.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you have that. So it's actually faster than a Ferrari in the 0 to 60, cost a heck of a lot less. So, I like the rarity of it. I like that. I always love the style. So, I mean, you can look at a car and you go, I just love that car, but you can't explain why. I just love that car. And, when I started looking into it and started finding out all these facts on it, and it just intrigues me. And the more I find out about it, the more interesting it is, and the more complex it becomes. Like
Hmm.
Ferrari, the reason it stopped big is because they sued GM saying, what are you doing? And instead of, sitting there thinking, well, imitation is the best form of flattery and maybe making out a deal, hell, we'll give you 10% because, yeah, it does look like a Ferrari. Because no one that wants to buy a Ferrari is looking at the mirror going, oh, I want a Ferrari, but I'm going to buy this instead. If you want to buy a Ferrari, you're going to buy a Ferrari.
Well, that's like what I mentioned in the segment before was you have, everybody was like, oh, the Fiero is the poor man's Corvette. Okay, well,
Right.
I don't want to take this the wrong way, but it's like, can you say the same about the Mira where the Mira is the poor man's Ferrari? See?
Well,
I
no,
don't want
no.
I don't want
Well,
people to take it the wrong way.
right.
That's just what pops in my head.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's really not much of a gray area. You either like the car or you don't. It's like the Zimmer Quicksilver. You either like it or you don't. And for whatever reason, I like them. I just think that the rarity and to know that they're going to be coming to Fiorama and just see. I mean, I don't see that many in person. I think in the 15 years that I've been following them, I saw Drew's twice. There was one at the 30th. and there might have been one more that I saw. So in 15 years, I've only seen four face to face and have never sat in one. Not that it's any different than a Fiero, but I think just the feeling of looking out over that hood and kind of looking around going, whoa. Oh, there
Mhm.
was another one that came to the Dells back in 2017. As a matter of fact, that one is the only two-tone Mera ever made that I know of. It was white with a gray bottom.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of color changes. There's the red, there's a the white, there's a black, um,
Yeah,
and then
silver, gray, and yellow.
yeah, yeah,
Those six colors, that's it.
yeah, and only like I said, under 250. That's impressive. So
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people may have just caught what you said. So what it's been announced, so it's not a surprise anymore. But let's go ahead and say what we've been saying for the past couple, weeks now. What are we doing at Fiorama this year?
We are doing a Mera reunion. We are inviting the Mera owners to come and show their cars at Fiorama. Um, to show off your cars, I should say. And if in the at N.I.F E and are trying to welcome Meras more into the Fiero community because you don't see a lot of them at shows, at Fiero shows. I mean, you know, bring them out, show them. They're Fiero based, and I've always appreciated them. I always wanted to see more of them, and just again for the rarity of them. And oh, what number is that? I mean, they all have numbers. Like if you had a Mera number, 7025, the 7 indicates it was built in 1987, and the 25 meaning it was the 25th one built in 87. So there's 88 built in 87 and 159 built in 1988, and depending on what your number is, depending on where in the line it was made. So we're trying to say, come on out. We're welcoming you with open arms. You're going to have special parking. We're going to have a discussion on the before the pizza party. We're going to have special parking in the parking lot for them, and we're hoping to have a lot of them come out. Trying to get the word out there.
Yep, and this is the best way to do it. And so the Mirror reunion will be taking place at the Courtyard Chicago St. Charles, which is the host hotel for Fiorama. And the Q&A session will be starting around 5 o'clock and goes till about 6. And then after that is, if you want to, hang outside and chat more, you can. But the actual Q&A session on the Mira will be between 5 and 6. Now, could have a couple people say, okay, well, does that mean you have a Mira coming to the 5 o'clock hour at the Courtyard Chicago St. Charles? Or are you just going to have a discussion in the parking lot of the Mira? So, Mark, why don't you make the announcement of what special Mira is coming and attending Fiorama 29 on September 7th of this year?
We have the prototype Mera number 6001, a 1986 SE, was originally an SE in bright silver metallic. This was the concept car that went to all the autoramas and car shows showing what a Mera was and introducing it. And it started being for sale in 1987. So it was 7001 was the first one in 87. This is the only 1986, and it's documented as Mira 6001, and he will be attending. I got confirmation on that, and we're really excited. They had it at the 35th and the 40th, and it's going to also be at Fiorama.
That is awesome. And it is a one of a kind.
Mhm.
And the gentleman that is bringing it will answer your questions about it. He's very excited to bring it to Fiorama. I you know I think the last time I saw a Mira in person was my very first Fiorama back in '97, and it was Rodney's.
Hmm.
And I have not seen one. If one has come to Fiorama or the Dells, I apologize that I didn't pay more attention to it, but that's in my memory, that is the first and only time that I've personally seen a Mera. But no, this is exciting. It's going to be an exciting time to explore in detail what the Mera is, and it is its own car. It's even though it's based on a Pontiac Fiero chassis and space frame, it is its own car, and that's where I think people get a little distorted on that. Oh, it's a Pontiac Fiero. No, it's not. It is its own. Yes, it's on the chassis and the space frame, but it is its own vehicle, and um, having the prototype at Fiorama is very exciting. And outside of the anniversary shows, having a vehicle that comes, like last year we had the Flash, a very unique
Right.
handmade vehicle, and now we're upping the ante and bringing an actual prototype to Fiorama. So this
And
has
not
got to be a
only,
high point on you too. Kind of all the years you've been doing research and culminates to this at Fiorama.
and that's the nice thing about it is not only do we have the discussion for the hour before the pizza party, but the cars will be lined up in their own special area on the show field, and so you can discuss further with the owners of the Miras to get even more information and personal, why they feel they like it or why did they buy it and why have they kept it for so long and what is it to them. So there's going to be a number of, I mean, we're hoping that there's going to be a number of other mirrors there that you can discuss, what it's all about.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so before we wrap it up here, the other uh, big announcement that we're going to make here at FieroCast is the August FieroCast. So you want to, I don't want to say we're doing a series on the Mera, but just kind of getting a little bit more information out there of what the Mera is. So, we recapped a article that was written back in 2011. We have Mark explaining a little bit more detail of the Mera and why, personally, like why he likes the Mera, and then having the prototype Mera attend Fiorama. We're going to have next month for the next FieroCast, we are going to talk to the gentleman who owns that prototype. And we're going to dive deep into everything that we're going to pick his brain. And we're going to dive into what made him want that car, why he keeps that car very active now, and everything that is Mera. So very exciting. So the people who unfortunately aren't able to attend Fiorama can get a little bit more in-depth information on the Mera and especially the prototype. So Mark, you'll be joining us as well. So I know you'll have some questions for the owner. Again, please join us for the next FieroCast. This is just a teaser of what's to come. We've got this episode here. We've got the next episode of Mera, and then leading into the debut of the prototype at Fiorama. So if you missed it at the 35th, you missed it at the 40th, this is a chance to come out and check it out at Fiorama. So again, Mark, thank you. Any last thoughts, words about the Mera and what we can expect at Fiorama?
I just think that as you look at, there are a couple of differences in the 6001 that they had changed going into they changed the seats and they realized that maybe the Fiero seats would be better for it. And they had different mirrors on it. They changed the types of mirrors. So being a concept like that before production, there's a few differences in the car, and it's interesting to if you have another mirror to compare it to see the difference in it. It's very minor, but like just for instance, real quick, the 87s, the wheels that they came with were the diamond spoked painted in the color of the car. You got a yellow car, you got yellow wheels. You got a red car, you got red wheels. In 1988, they went with the Commodoro wheels, which are Italian-made wheels that they actually had on the 308s. So there's a little difference there. Now, this 86 has the Commodore wheels. Why they didn't keep going with those in 87, I don't know. But it's interesting. Just a little factoid.
Yeah, and I agree. Like if we can get a mix of different years at Fiorama,
Right.
then it would be interesting to see the differences in person and kind of see what changes were made to improve it and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yep.
disappointing that they only did it for 2 years. But an interesting concept that they had come up with. So and getting to know more about what the Mera is kind of puts that itch in you. Like, okay, let's see what they are and are
Yeah.
they available? Any available to buy? So,
Right.
well, thank you again for joining me tonight.
Thank
It
you.
was a pleasure talking to you about the Mera and what is to come in the next couple months. So, again, if you can make it out to Fiorama on Saturday and Sunday, there you have it. We've got the prototype Mera coming, and a couple other Meras as well. So, all right. Well, thank you again, Mark, and then we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mark Soldner, for joining me again tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you on FieroCast and sit down and chat with you. We hope you enjoyed tonight's episode of the Mera. Got to understand a little bit more of the Mera and what the Mera is about. This podcast, again, the first section of the episode was written by Larry Hall. The second part was produced by GoldenEye Graphic, and FieroCast is a production of the Northern Illinois Fiero Enthusiasts. Thank you for joining me tonight again, Mark. I am your host, Mike Croyer, and thank you for listening to the newest episode of FieroCast. This is episode 53, and it is the only podcast dedicated to the Pontiac Fiero and the Fiero community. If you'd like more information or have any ideas on any future FieroCast, you can email me at mkroyer@fierofocus.com. Remember to keep Fieroing, and good night, Fiero owners, wherever you are.